Atlanta, is home to 500,000 people, and 51.8% of that population is African American. However, Atlanta clings to an extensive segregationist history. Street names such as Charles Allen and Parkway Drive, Argonne and Central Park Place, Briarcliff and Moreland Ave, Monroe and Boulevard are streets with a long racist history codified in Atlanta's city infrastructure. We wanted to know what the community knew about Atlanta's history.
I don't know. What about you, honey? Do you know why?
No, you guys don't know anything about it?
No.
But we weren't surprised at how unaware
Not exactly. I just really work.
or misinformed
I don't. I'm not from here, so.
or uninterested most people native to Atlanta were.
Can I ask you guys a couple questions? Hi, puppy.
In the history of the streets they lived on.
Do you guys have time to answer a couple of questions? We're GSU students. We're filming.
Sorry.
No? Okay. Well,
We didn't want to give up,
sorry. No.
and we were glad we didn't, because then we met Angie Lewis.
Well, I know that, like you said, Ponce is kind of the dividing line where if you were affluent and probably white, you lived on Monroe. If otherwise, you lived on Boulevard. Yeah, same with Parkway and Charles Allen. That was kind of the proverbial railroad tracks.
Yeah.
Like you see huge apartment complexes and things that the average person can't afford popping up and pushing out people. And I mean, that's true of a lot of our neighbors. And you can even see the divide. You cross over and it's like, oh, this is very different.
Right.
I mean, my husband's African American. I'm raising 6 biracial children, so I'm very aware that there's different worlds.
Right.
My husband's the pastor of Blueprint right there on the corner.
Yeah.
What brings us together is our kids all go to the same school, right? Or we end up in the same high school. It would make a statement. Like we're not, like let's do away with divisions.
Right.
I'm sure you guys are aware that Grady High School is looking to change their name and that type of thing.
The group was excited to hear that we were not the only ones advocating for name changes, but we weren't satisfied with the actions taken. Then we met Chip.
Do you know the history behind the?
Yeah, the history is totally racist. That's
Yes.
Through that light is the black side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
This was the white side of the road. And those guys, in the early days, their side of the road is actually named after a Confederate general who was the first Grand Wizard of the KKK. You know, they didn't like it. They went to City Hall, asked for their road to be renamed to the same name as the white side, and got vetoed. So, you know, different society back then than it is today. Although, you know, we still have 2 road names.
Right.
So maybe it's not that different. Something needs to be done.
Chip launched our project into the right direction, though he admitted to only recently discovering this information from Victoria Lemos, a historian focused on Atlanta. She had this to say.
What worried these white neighbors was what they called the quote-unquote encroachment of black residents. But not just any black residents. In the 4th Ward, African Americans were middle class, even upper middle class. They were educated, preachers, pastors, masons, oddfellows.
Chip had become our champion, and armed with the history of the street names, went to the Highland Board, but was confronted by an obstacle from the past.
So I went to my board, which was 11 white people, and with a motion that simply said, "Hey, you know, our board supports city council beginning conversation." To my dismay, the vote, five of the 11 people found reason to abstain from voting. 6 voted yes, according to Robert's rules. The 6 votes cast, all 6 said yay, so therefore it passed unanimous. But it was the 5 abstentions that got me. And I reached out to a friend, Victoria Lemos, who's an Atlanta historian. She publishes a podcast called Archive Atlanta. She's brilliant with the history of Atlanta. And I wanted to make sure that I was absolutely positive that it was racist and segregationist and Confederate ties, you know, to these roads before I got council involved.
In October of 1910, the white homeowners of Jackson Hill organized inside that church to establish a racial boundary. The idea was to create a zone of 14 blocks that would be quote-unquote safe for white residents and restricted to black homebuyers. Locals like B. Lee Smith and Eugene Mitchell, father of Margaret Mitchell, joined with a chorus of complaints that the streetcar had brought in Black people to their neighborhood. These group of neighbors couldn't get their plans into policy until they elected one of their very own to city council, when Claude Ashley is elected to represent the 4th Ward on the council. Immediately after that, he proposed his segregation ordinance. The basic idea was to separate white and Black Atlantans in residential parts of the city. A Black couple there had purchased a home in the Druid Hill neighborhood, and their city council took action. It was overturned on its first try, then on its second try, then on its third try, before finally passing for the 4th time in 1913.
So I reached out to Ryan Gravel, the founder of Beltline, Maria Supporter, the author of the Supporter Report, a couple departments at the AJC to try to get the story spread. I didn't hear back from anybody. I reached out to Carla Smith, who is the District 1 councilor, who successfully got Confederate Avenue Road name changed, and I asked her, how'd you do it? And she said, well, we needed a petition of 50 to 75% of property owners sign on to this and then take it to the council and vote. And there's no statute that requires a petition. Word needs to get spread.
Sure.
So can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're doing this project right here. So what are y'all doing to try to make a change?
We want your help in creating awareness and advocacy for safe, progressive Atlanta streets. Let's do away with divisions together and build a better Atlanta united. You can follow us on Facebook at Invisible Racist Wall Atlanta or email us your story at invisibleracistwallatlanta@gmail.com. Join our project to pressure the council members to lead us into a united future.